We're back to a bee yard that was featured in a video of ours about a little over a month ago, where we were setting up a new bee yard. In fact, I think that's the title, setting up a new bee yard. And at that time we brought in some 5-frame nukes, transferred them into a deep box, gave them a 2-gallon bucket of 1-to-1 syrup. We came back about 2 weeks later, gave them another 2-gallon bucket of syrup and a second story. And then we were back recently, probably about 10 days ago, and gave them another 2-gallon bucket of 1-to-1 syrup. At that time, most of them had several frames drawn out in the top box. A couple of them were up to 6 or 7 frames. They were doing pretty well. And not quite sure what to expect here today. We've been to several other bee yards that are almost identical to this, where they were set up about the same time period, and they're doing quite well. The sourwood trees in this area are wide open. It's running very early this year for this area. It's kind of caught us just a little off guard, so I feel like we're in what I call the spinning plate syndrome, where you, like those comedians that spin plates on stage, and they get as many plates spinning as they can and have a hard time getting back to the beginning before plates start crashing. We're not crashing, but we're definitely rushing. If you look at the trucks, you can see a lot of unpainted supers on there. We thought we had a little time to get them painted. We're drawing out a lot of new foundation this year. They're not quite drawn out yet.
No, they're not on the second to last.
I got brood in the top box. You got brood in the top box?
I'm sure I do. Yeah.
There's these brand new honey. Whew, that's good.
It's good?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, they're backfilling.
Okay. So what I want to do, any foundation that's left in the bottom, or half-drawn combs like this one, take them out. Let's create a solid bottom box. In other words, the brood that's in these top boxes, let's put it in the bottom. By golly, there really isn't that much left.
Right, how about this? About.
Okay, I think these colonies are going to become singles with a box of foundation. So that's something that's going to seem odd to people too. We're going to put a box of foundation on with no excluder. The colonies aren't quite strong enough to really go through an excluder with foundation above it. Even good strong colonies don't like doing that very much. So then we'll come back in 5 days and get the bees out of that, and then slip the excluder in the middle. Well, you got a good one. That's a lot of brood over there. Got 1 frame of brood left over, which will slip into another colony that's smaller. This is a lot of work, but It's really our best bet at getting a super of honey, maybe two actually. This is going to go so fast here if the flow keeps doing what I saw yesterday. It'll draw that out in 4 or 5 days. Maybe we can get another drawn comb on top before it's over. And if we would have left that deep box partially drawn out on top, they just wouldn't have made much honey for us. This is our best bet, and on this pallet anyway. Other colonies might be different. There might be some that are just completely full of stuff in the top, in which case we'll put a drawn comb on top. Okay, I'm going to leave these frames just sitting out. You guys do the same and generate an empty box that we can use. Okay. I think we need empty boxes as we work, so we don't have to do what I just did here. We can transfer into an empty box.
Okay, all right. Got a big one here. The whole top's drawn out.
Okay, just put a drawn comb on the top, or actually, we have to draw so much foundation out. We don't have enough drawn comb.
I mean, when I say they drew the whole top out.
Okay, so in this case, let's put a foundation in the middle.
Oh.
Put that. I know it sounds crazy.
Okay.
That's our best shot at getting that started. We'll be back. We're going to be back very quickly.
Okay.
You know, within 4 or 5 days, and then we'll take that medium out of the middle and put it back on top. Ooh. That's our best guarantee of getting them started into that medium.
Okay. So that was the weird thing that you were going to talk
about. That's the weird thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Almost done. We just got 2 more pallets to do here, and every single colony now has 10 frames of brood in it. And we've got a box over here on the truck that's got a few extras. We're watching for places where we can stick a little more brood. Is there any more I can say about what we're doing here? I think it's pretty evident. Some colonies are getting, John's got another real strong one. He's put in a medium in the middle. This one's going to get a medium on top. These are just getting taken away. This is just honey and sugar syrup. We're going to load them back on the truck and just take them to the cooler until we get through all of this. We got a lot of nukes, several hundred nukes that are out in the field being mating and progressing at this point. And when they're ready, I think we're going to take all these deep boxes of partially drawn comb and food and whatever happens to be in here and put the nukes in them. That'll give them a head start too, because we're going to be having to feed them a lot, getting them ready for winter, drawing out foundation and stuff, so that'll help them. I know this looks like a lot of work, and trust me, it is. It seems excessive for what we're accomplishing here. And the reason it's worth it is back to Sourwood. It's just so valuable that it's worth all of this extra effort. And it's all about the money, all about the honey money. Well, you reckon that took an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes? Pretty good. Every single one of these has 10 frames of brood in it. And it would have been better if they would have been a week older, because this brood's going to really make them quite powerful in about 7 to 10 days. Either way, I'm pretty confident they're going to draw out this foundation and probably need another box. They look pretty good to me. And luckily we don't have a lot of yards to do this to. This is very time consuming, and I think we got 1 or 2 more to do like this, and the rest are just lift up wildflower over an escape board and put under empty supers for the sourwood. That's a lot easier. Okay, Seth, let's go have lunch. Let's go eat lunch.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, this yard was a little better than the last one, which made sense because it was split about a week earlier than the last one. This one's in western North Carolina, near Otto, North Carolina. Old yard. We had 2 in here swarm. This technique of letting them have a deep box until it's time for the honey flow to build into really helps with the swarming. That yard up Betty's Creek Road had 0 swarming. The first yard in the video, the one that was in the new bee yard setup, had 0 swarming. So this really works as far as keeping things from swarming until it's time to put supers on. This one was a little different. Most of these deep boxes were drawn out all the way, so you can see we slipped that box of foundation in the middle on most of them. Some of them were singles, and they got a box of foundation too. This is one of my very oldest yards, and it's also our very smallest yard. It only holds 20 colonies. Kind of a fun story behind this yard. I have a bee yard up the road. We're on Middle Creek Road in North Carolina, and the guy that owns the property where the other bee yard is came to me one day and said, I have a very, very good friend. He's a World War II veteran, and he really wants to have bees on his property. And I came and looked at it, and I told him I didn't think it was a good idea because the house is right there. And I told the old man, I said, you know, I'm not talking about 2 or 3 colonies, I'm talking about 20 or 30. And he says, oh, that's okay. He says, I'd like to have them here. So I went ahead and did it. And that old guy, until he died a few years back, whenever I'd show up here, he'd come out, he wanted to talk, and he'd just watch and talk the whole time I was working beehives. I kept telling him, you're gonna get stung, you're gonna get stung. And occasionally he would. He was using a walker. He was really old. And he was just so alone and so lonely. He just wanted to talk to somebody. So whenever I would show up to work bees, he just couldn't help himself. He had to come out and visit. And I kind of miss him. His name was Bill. And he had been stationed in England during World War II, and really good guy. So kind of miss old Bill.